of last year, but it's also hard to envision it. As I sit in my seat last night and I look over the lineup, and the bottom third is AAA. Walters, Dickerson, and Holt. You're not going anywhere with
losing
Walters,
Murphy
Dickinson, and
hurts.
Holt.
Losing Murphy hurts. I know some people say, "Oh, well, whatever." No, he at least came through at times, and he gave you a professional at bat. Like Swisher is whatever, but you've pretty much lost Murphy for the rest of the season.
Yeah, that's sad, and he's done. Maybe Holt gets to a ball in right field last night that Murphy probably doesn't get to.
True,
but you're not getting anything at the plate, and even Dickerson has cooled off after a hot start, and. I like what I see from Walters as a player, the versatility, a little bit of pop in the stroke, and everything else. But he's a young player, and you can't expect much out of him. Certainly this season, if even next year. So it's tough. And I heard on one of the call-in shows somebody getting into Francona last night, and really, Terry Francona, he wants to run Tyler Holt out there. He wants to be playing. Yeah. He wants to be playing. Zach Walters every day. No, I don't think so. He's obviously playing the cards he's dealt, and you can fault players, you can fault front office, but it's hard to come down on Francona. I know I'm sort of echoing what Nick Camino was saying last night. He was coming to Francona's defense on the radio as I'm driving home, but you got to agree with him. Francona, the least of this team's problems is the field manager.
Let me throw something out here, though, because Charles just kind of countered what I said about the schedule. I understand what the Indians have played so far, but let me give you some stats to show you why I think the Indians still finish 4, 5, 6 games above 500 here by the time this is said and done. And when I say that, I don't mean I'm looking at games above the split of the season, winning 81. So when I say 5 again above, I mean winning 86 games. I'm saying it differently than some people may say it, but just so that we're on the same page. When I say that, I mean ending up with 86 wins or so. But
yeah, which is 10 games over 500.
Right, yeah. Right. I'm just looking at it from the midway mark of going, 500. But anyways, look at the strength of schedule so far this season, and I've got it pulled up. The Indians have played the 8th toughest schedule in all of baseball based on strength of schedule so far. So that's something that people don't necessarily mention here when you look at the record and where they're at. So look at that and tie that into what you and I just talked about with the games that are left and the strength of schedule of the teams that you have left, which I don't have in front of me. But if I remember, we did talk about it a couple of weeks ago, and it was at that point – it was definitely less than 500. I think the winning percentage was around 45%. It was definitely lower, and they had the best of the 3 of Detroit, Kansas City, and Cleveland for the weakest schedule and the most home games left down the stretch. So that's why I'm saying that they are going to be a slightly better than 500 team, because they've played 500, but based on the teams they've played so far, they've played the 8th toughest schedule in baseball.
Yeah, and people have taken note of the strength of schedule and the number of home games. I think in September it's 17 and 10, home versus road. So that is as encouraging to me as anything. But not to change the subject, but just sort of to take stock of the team and where we are, and we thought what we thought we had in April versus what we know we have now, or what we think we have now. Look at, and let's just stipulate that the bullpen is solid and has had a successful season overall, and if you didn't tinker a lot with the bullpen, you'd be fine. That starting rotation wise, it is what it is. But if we just look at the position players on the field, Gary, and we look at who are there untouchables? I have 2 untouchables among position players. And I don't know if we would agree, because clearly Brantley would be one, but I don't know if you would have another one or who it would be. But I would say Gomes is an untouchable player as a position player. A step down from those 2 guys, I would put Santana, Kipnis, and Chisenhall as guys that even right now, none of them could I consider to be an untouchable type of player, but they're a step down from untouchable. And anybody else you can have, as far as an everyday player. And I'm obviously not counting Lindor and guys like that are up and coming prospects that aren't really on the roster. I'm talking about guys that have played this year. One outfielder, a catcher, and Chisholm, Hall, Santana, and Kipnis, because basically we've got them locked into contracts and we got control over them. But I don't, and I guess you could consider them core players. But I was just trying to take a look last night when I saw these three AAA guys in the lineup, and I'm thinking, well, we're missing Murphy and Swisher. Well, Murphy and Swisher aren't in the long-term plans for this team. So that led me to start thinking, okay, well, who is and who's untouchable? I don't know if you would agree with that assessment, but I've got even the Chisholm, Hall, Santana, and Swisher and Kipnis guys not in the category of hardcore players for this team going forward.
No, and I'm with you there on that too. Kipnis, I know a lot of people, he's popular with some people, and some people, and some parts of the fan base, they instantly want to get rid of a guy. Now, there's definitely concern with Kipnis, but we mentioned, and some people don't listen to this stuff, or some people just brush past the details and they look at the headlines. And when he came back earlier in the season, I was the first one to say he blatantly said, I will not be healthy the rest of the season. The team said his power will be affected. He is gutting it out by playing. This is the type of injury that he can only fix by taking a long period of time off and resting it. So it was either he doesn't play at all, or he plays hurt and we take what we can get. So for people smashing this season from Kipnis, I think you're being completely short-sighted, because it's not like the Indians are telling you that now as an excuse for his play. They told you that the day that he came back, that anything that we get from him the rest of the season is extra, because he is not going to be right. He had to adjust his swing. He had to change the way he batted the ball because of his injury. And I'm just saying, so for you to say, well, he's been trending downward this entire season is because of that. And I know it's easy to make excuses for guys, but to me, when you're making excuses after the fact, it's totally different than when right up front you go, listen, I'm going to do the best that I can, but this is not going to be better until next year. That's much better than saying, hey, I shot up my knees, I feel great again. Oh, I still can't hit the ball. Man, I don't know what I'm going to do. What should we do with Nick Swisher? I mean, my thing with Kipnis is I still think that he is the player that the Indians signed. Maybe not. Maybe he goes through Grady Sizemore syndrome, where he plays such a rough and tumble type game that he's just always going to hurt himself, But defensively, I'm curious how much the oblique affects him this season defensively as well, with turning the double play and the problems that we've seen him have that we didn't necessarily see him have before. Are you in anywhere in the same category as me with Jason Kipnis?
Yeah, I think, certainly that's, there are excuses and there are legitimate excuses. And I think that, like you say, it's got a lot more credibility when you're told up front what the situation is. And, I'm hopeful that, I like the kid. Obviously, he's a likable player and a guy that, last night he had the only RBI that we saw on a nice play where he went the other way and shot it up the gap. But, I've got to believe that we aren't seeing the real Jason Kipnis this year, and I'm not ready to write him off. Maybe he belongs in that core category along with Brantley and Gomes, but between Brantley, Gomes, Kluber, and those three are the solid core of this team going forward. And you wish you had 6 guys you could put in that category instead of 3. But I was just trying to be realistic about looking towards the future.
I'm with you. I agree on Chisenhall. I think that I would be willing to entertain some trade offers for Chisenhall. Mike Brandenberry and I have talked a little bit about that the last couple of weeks. I think that it really depends. His value, while at one point it was sky high, is definitely coming back down to earth. But, I was definitely in the group that wanted to give Lonnie one more year, but I was pretty close to being ready to move on from him anyway. Obviously, he bounced back big. Now he's come back down. But I would put Chisenhall in a group of somebody with some value that I wouldn't necessarily make a part of my long-term core, especially if I can strengthen the pitching staff. And Santana is not somebody I would trade at the trade deadline. He's not a guy that I pawn off trying to get in a rental or some crap like that. But in the right package, listen, if the Rays had wanted Santana and Salazar for Price, David Price would be on the Indians right now if I was making that trade. I like Santana, but he's not an untouchable to me. I just won't give him away like some people want to just toss him in on a trade like he's just some slightly valuable extra piece, and I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I don't agree with that either. He's your leading home run hitter on the team, and in the second half of the season, he's proven that he can be a passable defensive first baseman. So we didn't really know that or think that 6 months ago or 4 months ago.
Would you make him your first baseman next year, Dan?
I think he probably is pretty much the everyday first baseman, and I'm okay with that. But what you've got to make some moves in this off season to make your infield defense better. It could scarcely be worse. You've got to believe that it could be that Lindor will be a good improvement, and if Kipnis is healthy, he's a credible defensive second baseman. So if you can you can straighten out Lonnie. I mean, we had so many errors in the first half from third base combined with Santana and Chisenhall and Asdrubal just had a miserable first half as well defensively. So but this team just has to get better as infield defense, or it'll never contend. And Chisenhall, if you've got Santana at first and Kipnis is healthy and you've got Lindor, you got 3/4 of that equation. You still have to deal with Chisenhall over at third or somebody else at third, and then the question about the defense over there at the hot corner. But
do you think that we talked about different reasons why they may have picked up Walters in that Asdrubal trade, and with him being able to play multiple positions? I know I've heard the outfield as an idea with him for them, but do you think that may also be, hey, let's acquire a bunch of infielders here. Maybe, he could play into that conversation of getting a shot at third in spring training if they were to move Chisenhall for some pitching, say.
Yeah, I think so. And my understanding is he plays second, short, and third.
Yeah.
Likes the two middle infield positions more than he likes third, is what I heard him say. But he looks athletic enough. In fact, when I saw him, both in terms of facial resemblance and body type, I thought he reminded me a little bit of Joe Mauer. He's 6'3", 220 kind of thing, kind of a lanky kid, and has some pop in the bat. I think they're just trying to add middle infielders with some power because they really haven't had that. If he can play third base credibly and turns into a hitter that can hit at the major league level, then absolutely, it would help you consider. The other thing, I was seeing some film, and I like this Eric Gonzalez, the kid they have down in Akron right now. He's a big kid. He's a shortstop there, but his future is not a shortstop with this organization with Lindor here. So maybe he's a third baseman as well. You might look at him. You've got Urshela and some other people like that in your minor league system that are third basemen of the future, so to speak. But I certainly wouldn't mind looking at some different options there. They're going to help you be a better defensive team. Maybe Chisenhall after a full season there. Shows up next April and has got a glove plan or something, or an arm transplant. He starts looking like a major league third baseman. Maybe he doesn't, but if you're tinkering at that spot, it's okay with me.
Yeah, I'll tell you, and as we're sitting here talking about this, I like Chisenhall. I go, well, I guess if he's still here next year, if you found a better third baseman, he could DH. Oh, that's right. Swisher needs a place to play. No matter where we move people, I go, oh, damn, got to find a place for Swisher, and it can't be in the field. Well, that's DH because we don't have nothing else for you, man. So
yeah, they've already started talking about Swisher in the outfield, and I just think that's
no way.
That's just a disaster waiting to happen.
We saw him get smoked. I mean, to me, that was shades of seeing Johnny Damon trying to come back and play, man. I mean, he looked bad. He looked bad last time he was out there, man.
Yeah, we just don't have enough outfield spots to go around for him to have one of them, especially if Bourne is back, and we got Bourne and Brantley, and that only leaves right field. And Gosh, I hope that's not next Swisher come next April.
Oh man, yeah. I'll tell you what, man. I don't even know I don't even want to think about that right now, man. I don't even want to think about that, man. Bro, we have talked it up. Didn't even touch